I want to get more into Git. I've kind of explained what Git was before. It's a version control system. It kind of allows you to save your works in a way that's a bit more tidy than just saving. It's essentially the answer to this. If you ever ran into this problem, I'm sure you have, where you're just creating new files and files. Git does this in a much more user-friendly way, where we could do stuff like this without having to, resort to just making new files over and over, especially when you're working on bigger projects. It also allows for more collaboration, which is fantastic because you're probably going to be working on teams, and teams are going to be working with Git. But the issue is that Git kind of sucks. And what I want to explain is that Git is very tricky to really understand. As you can see, that's the Azure CTO, and you're screwing up when the Azure CTO is saying your UI is funky. If you ever use desserts, kind of not good. It's better than AWS, I'll give it that, but it's not my forte. And then, of course, there's this comic that's saying how to use Git, memorize these commands. If you ever get an error, just start over. Which is literally what I see some people do. Is if you've ever been taking a software engineering class, you might have had one or two Git repositories. And you probably had an instance where you almost deleted your project. I'm sure everyone did. And it gets very tricky, but what I've realized is that if you understand how Git works internally, it's a lot easier to make sense of what each command is doing. And how Git works internally is it uses something called a Merkle tree. So it kind of has this node system. So each update, we push a new node to this branch. And this is actually used by blockchains. Git isn't a blockchain, but it's very, very similar. As in, if you know how a blockchain works, you can apply a lot of that knowledge to kind of understand how Git works. And so I want to get into, so let's actually start a project. So I'm going to start a project, and I'm just going to call this main.js. And I'm just going to do console.log hello earth, save it. And so I want to initialize a Git repository within this project. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to do git init. And as you can see, that's telling me initialize empty Git repository in this directory. So I'm going to do clear. And so now this project is managed by Git, and Git is going to manage all of its versions. So now what we want to do is we want to commit this file to the Git repository. And so how we do this is we just want to do git commit. And hold up, it's giving us an error. What it's saying is that I haven't tracked main.js. So in order to make a commit to the Git, in order to add a new node to that Merkle tree, we need to tell Git which files to look at. And so how we're going to do this is we need to stage these files or track them. And how we do that is we're just going to do git add main.js. And I can run git status. And that's going to tell me that I have changes ready to be committed. I have main.js, it is staged, it's ready to go, and I just need to make a commit. So how I make a commit is I just do git commit. And it's going to ask me to write a message for this commit. And I'm just going to do initial commit, save it, close it. It looks like we're good to go. It looks like my commit was made. And I can actually see a list of my commits if I do git log. So as we can see, that's our first commit. We made the initial commit, authored by Carson Weeks. It gives me the ID of the commit, and it's saying that we are on this new commit right now. That's what head is. Your head is going to be which commit you're actively looking at. And so now, if I run git status, there's nothing to commit because the branch we're working on is clean. Nothing's been changed since our last commit, so there's nothing for Git to do. So let's go ahead and change this. So I'm just going to add more. I'm going to add hello moon, hello Mars, and I'm going to do hello Mercury. I might have misspelled that. And so now what I want to do is I want to add this file to track it again. So if I type git status, you can see that this file isn't tracked. And so I can very easily add all of the files that I made changes to in one command, because normally you're working on a project with many different files. Instead of having to manually type out each file, I can add git add dot git status. As you can see, it's realized that I made modifications to main, and it's staged those changes. And now I can do git. Now I can do git commit, and I can do -m, and then I can just type my message in here in my command line. And I'll say added more planets. All right, it's saying 1 file change, 3 insertions, exactly what I expect. Clear, I'm going to do git log. As you can see, we now have 2 commits in this repository. We have one for the initial commit and one for add more planets. And so I'm going to make an error to this, and I'm going to show you how we can easily go back to different versions of our project. So what my error is going to add is I'm going to do console.log hello Pluto. Now, if you can see the error I made, Pluto isn't a planet. So I want to remove this. I want to remove this untracked change and go back to my clean branch. I want to remove all the changes I made and just go back to what I committed when I did added more planets. And so the easiest way to do this is just do git restore dot. As you can see, it got rid of it. But let's say I accidentally do commit this. So let's say console.log Pluto. Oh, hello Pluto. And I'm going to commit this. I'm going to do git add dot git status to make sure I change that change. It's a good habit to get into to run git status every time you do git add. So as you can see, it's modified, and I'm going to do git commit added Pluto. All right, clear, git log, there's my change. As you can see, let's imagine I made that change on accident, and I want to get rid of this commit. I want to go back to a commit before we add Pluto, because we all know Pluto isn't a planet. So what we could do is we could copy the ID of the commit that we want to go back to. It's going to be this one right here. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to do git reset, and I'm going to paste that in. And as you can see, now my change to Pluto is in stage. And if I go to git log, it's going to tell me that I've moved my head back to add more planets. Another thing we can do once I commit this is I'm going to commit it again. And another command we can run is we can run reset. We can add in a hard argument, and what that's going to do is that's just going to get rid of Pluto for us. And so if we look at my repository, as you can see, this is the node where we added the console.logs, and then hello Pluto. So here's what a repository looked like. Here's our initial commit where we made hello world. Here's our second commit, hello planets, and here's our third commit, hello Pluto. And then when we ran git reset, all we did is we just backed off. And so now we'd be back at hello planets. That make sense? And that's a very simple structure of Git. And now I want to get into something called branching. And this is where you're really going to be working with other people. This is how you collaborate using Git. We want to create separate branches for each user to work in. And then when they work on their feature, and then when they're done with their feature, they're going to merge it over into the master branch. So this way, everyone's working on a separate part of the project and no one's stepping on each other's toes. And it's a fantastic way, and this is what really adds the power to Git. So I'm going to go back. Well, I'm going to go to a website I made. I'm going to go to cd ... Oh, I can go here. Open recent. Git piece. So here's a little website I made. All this little website does is when I run it, it's going to get a list of planets, and then it's going to render these planets. So I have a list of planets, and I'm calling this response. So once I access this route, I'm going to respond with an HTML file called planets, and I'm going to pass in planets. So if I look at that HTML file, it's saying for each planet, put that planet in. So let's actually run this so you can see what it does. And how we're going to do this is we're going to do npm I to install the dependency that this project uses. Okay, perfect. And now we're going to do node main. And now that's running. So if I go over to localhost and I refresh it, that's exactly what we expect. So that's just kind of an idea of what this thing does. And what I want to do is I want to add some features to this. I want to make it so that it's not so ugly. I want to make it so that this is formatted in a list. And so right now, my master branch is kind of in a good place. And I normally want my master branch to be kind of like a runnable version of my project. So if I'm making these kind of experimental edits or just kind of features in general, I want to be doing that. I want to be doing that in a separate branch, so that way if I realize this feature is totally crazy, I can just go back to my master. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a branch. So first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I have a repository initialized, git init, clear. And now what I want to do is I want to do sorry, 1 second. All right, perfect. So I've done git init, and then I'm going to do git status. And as you can see, I made changes to my main. I added my package.json in my views, but I also have my node modules. And if you can look in VS Code, I'm trying to commit 821 files. Well, obviously there's only like 6 files in this project, and that's because node modules downloaded dozens and dozens, hundreds of files. And so normally node modules isn't something we want to commit to a repository, because when you download the repository, you're going to be running git init anyways. npm install anyways. So we don't want to be adding this to our repository, because it's going to make our repository huge when it's something that the user that downloads it already knows how to do anyways. So we can actually tell git to ignore this file, and how we're going to do that is we're going to make a new file called git ignore, and then we're going to do node modules. And if I save it, as you can see, I'm only tracking 6 files, and if I do git status, I am no longer tracking node modules. So I'm going to go ahead and clear. So I'm going to say git add dot to add every file, git status. As you can see, these are all files I made changes to, so this is exactly what I expect. And then I'm going to do git commit initial commit. Clear, git status. We are working on a clean branch. It's going to tell us that. And so what I want to do is I want to create a new branch to make formatting changes to my plans HTML file. So how I do that is I'm going to do git branch formatting. This is the name of the branch. And if I type git branch, it's going to tell me I've created a new branch called formatting. And now I want to switch over to that branch. And how I switch over to that branch is I do git checkout formatting. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in this file, and I am going to do ul save this, node main.js. As you can see, that looks much better. So I've made this change to my feature branch. So let's go ahead and commit this to my feature branch. And so again, how I'm going to do this, git add dot git commit, git status. I can confirm I've made the planets.handlebars, so this commit is exactly what I expect it to be. Git commit /m made planets render as list. Clear. So now if I do git log, as you can see, my master branch is 1 commit behind. My master branch is 1 commit behind my initial branch. Let's run that again so you can see it. My master branch is still on this older version of the project, while my new branch formatting is a 1 commit ahead. So actually, I noticed something when I was looking at this file, and what I noticed is that we're rendering planets, but Pluto isn't a planet. So I want to get rid of this, and normally we could make a new branch called bug fix, but since this is such a simple bug fix, I'm actually just going to change it in my master branch. So how I go back to my master branch is I'm going to do git checkout master, and then I'm going to do, I'm just going to remove Pluto, and then I'm going to do git add dot git commit /m removed Pluto, and there we go. But we've kind of made a weird predicament here, and what we've done is we've created something that looks along the lines of this. We've created a new commit in our, so right now our formatted plans list is one commit ahead of initial commit, but remove Pluto is also one commit ahead of initial commit. So how are we going to get the files from here onto here? And what we can do is we can merge them. And since the commit here didn't step on any of the toes of this commit, and this commit didn't step on any of the toes of this commit, once I merge these two files, we're not going to have any issue because none of the commits here made any changes to each other. None of the commits here made changes to the same parts of the file. So we're not going to have any issue. So actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do git merge. Real quick, I'm going to run git branch. I'm going to make sure I'm in master. I am. Git merge formatting master. One second. Yep. Oops. Master formatting. I'm sorry. And I'm making a new commit called merge branch. And as we can see, we've merged that branch. So if I look at my main.js, I still don't have Pluto. And if I go into planets.handlebars, I still have that deformatting. So what I've done is I've merged these, I've created a new commit on my master branch. And all that master commit is it's taking all of the commits from my feature branch and just merging them over. So the thing is, we're not doing any more formatting, so it's totally safe to delete this because all the changes have been already committed to our master. So let's go ahead and delete this branch. And so how we delete this branch is we're going to run git branch formatting -- delete. And now if I run git branch, as you can see, we have no more. Oops, I'm sorry. We have no more formatting branch. And that's because we didn't need it, you know. So I'm going to go ahead and clear. And now, so in the past, I showed you what would happen if we tried to merge without stepping on each other's toes, and it worked exactly as we expected. But what happens if we do step on each other's toes? So let's actually run a scenario where we do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to say git checkout -b red, and when I put -b, that means I want to check out a new branch and create it at the same time. So as you can see, I'm in a new branch called red. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say style equals color red. I'm going to go ahead and run this, make sure it works. That's exactly how it's expected. I'm going to go back to master, git checkout. Oh, I'm going to commit this. I'm sorry. Git commit -m. Oops. Git add dot git commit -m. Change color to red. Clear. Git checkout master. I'm going to go back to my master branch, and I'm going to create a new branch from masters, calling it git checkout. Oops. -b blue. Clear, and then in here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the color of this to color style equals color blue. Go ahead and save this, run it, make sure it works. Works like a charm. And I'm going to go ahead and commit this. So git add dot git commit -m change color to blue. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to master. Git check out master. So what I've done is I have two commits that are stepping on each other's toes that I want to merge with each other. And so what's going to happen is we're going to get an error, and I want to see that error. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to merge blue into master, git merge master blue. All right, perfect. We were able to merge blue with no problem. Git merge, as you can see, we merged blue. So now I'm going to try to merge red. And here's where it gets interesting. Git merge master red. What we have now is a conflict. So we have two features, maybe made by two other people, and now they're working on two pieces of code that are the same. So they're starting to step on each other's toes. So what's happening is we're getting a conflict. It doesn't know what to do, gets confused. And so it's very easy to fix these conflicts. Normally you have like a project manager that can really just work out like, oh, well this here, this and there. But if we're just working by ourselves, VS Code is actually going to give us an option saying we can accept the current changes. The current changes again are color blue, or we can accept the incoming changes, which are changing it to red, or we can accept both. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to accept incoming. And so as you can see, the merge works perfectly. So now, what can happen is I could do git add dot, and then I could do git commit dash m fixed conflict. And there we go. Git stat, git log. So as you can see, let me remove this. What we had to do was, starting from the bottom, we merged formatting, we changed the color to red, and then we changed the color to blue, and then I need to make a separate commit to make these two branches play well together. And that separate commit is that thing that we did where I had to click on accept incoming or accept out current. And then once I did that, I need to make a separate commit to fix the conflict. And essentially how this is going to work in our Merkle tree is it's going to look like this. So we still have this, we've merged this, but we've also made a separate commit to merge a conflict. And so now I want to talk about GitHub. So you've really just got, you've got what I say the 20% of Git that you're going to use 80% of the time. So you know enough about it to really just get yourself going, and I want to talk about what GitHub is. And so GitHub is to Git like art is to DeviantArt. And so what I mean by that is GitHub and Git are two separate things, and GitHub is for hosting your projects. GitHub is for hosting your repositories and your remote repositories. The same way DeviantArt is for hosting the art that you make. I see a lot of people mix these up, and so I just want to make it clear that Git and GitHub are two very separate things. Git is often used with GitHub, or you can use it with other things like Bitbucket, or there's all sorts of alternatives. And so I'm just going to go into the basics of GitHub really quick. And I'm going to show you something really cool that you could do with GitHub that you should definitely check out. So I have the project here that I just showed you, and I want to download this. And so what I'm going to do is I can click on code, I can click on copy right here, and then in my browser, or my terminal, I'm sorry, I'm going to go cd dot dot, cd dot dot, clear, and what I can do is I can type git clone, and then that link. And so what this is going to do is it's going to clone the repository and put it on my computer. So when I run this, as you can see, no issues, and I'm going to cd into it, ls code dot. Yes, I trust these authors. As you can see, here's the project from my GitHub. It's the exact same thing that I just showed you, but I've now downloaded it from GitHub. And so now what I could do is, hey, this thing doesn't have Pluto changed on my GitHub. So I'm going to remove Pluto. I'm going to commit this change. Git commit -m removed Pluto. Oops, I'm sorry, git add dot git status. As all I changed is main.js, so that's exactly what I expect. And I want to do git commit -m remove Pluto. And so I've made that commit to my local machine. So if we look at git log, what GitHub is, what the repository on GitHub is called origin. And as you can see, I've made one step above my origin. So I can actually, I want to move my GitHub up one step. So if we look at my GitHub actually real quick, as you can see, it doesn't have that new commit I made. It still only has one commit. And so how I can get this commit on GitHub is I have to do something called a push. And this is very easy. I just do git push origin master. I go back to GitHub, refresh the page. There we go. And if I go in the main.js on GitHub, as you can see, it doesn't have Pluto right here. That's exactly what we expect. And so there's another really cool thing about GitHub that I want to go into, and this is where I really think that GitHub is a fantastic tool for collaboration. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new branch. I'm going to say git checkout -b formatting. So I'm in my formatting branch. And then here, I just want to do the exact same thing. I want to do a UL, copy this, li, whoops. So I've made this an ordered list now, an unordered list, so it's going to look pretty on the site. So I'm going to do git add dot, git commit planets render in list, clear. And now I've made a new branch and I want to push this new branch to GitHub. So how I do that is I'm going to do git push origin formatting. And so as you can see, if I do git branch, whoops, I'm sorry, git log, I have an origin formatting now. And so if I actually do go to my GitHub, you can see that if I click on this, it has the formatting, and this is where all my changes are. And now I could merge this into master, but there's actually something a lot cooler that I think you guys should really pay attention to, especially when you start working with other people, and that is the pull request. So I just made a recent push to formatting, and Git is recommending that I compare the changes I made to master and then make a pull request. So I'm going to click on this. And so what I want to do is instead of merging automatically, I want to create a pull request. So that's what I'm doing. And so now what's going to happen is imagine I'm working on this project for someone else, and I just finished my feature. Instead of merging it, I might want to have that other person look at it first. Imagine I'm working in a team, and 100 other people have to look at this this feature before it goes in, because you're working at Google, you don't want your entire server's down. You want to make sure other eyes are looking at it. So once I create a pull request, I'm essentially saying, hey, can you guys look at my feature? And then if you like what you see, go ahead and merge it into master. And so that's exactly what I did, as I created a pull request with my formatting. So my formatting is not in master. I can assign it to someone right here. Let me zoom in a little. I can assign it to someone else that's working on my project. Since no one else is, I'm just going to merge it myself. So I just click on this, confirm merge, and then I can delete that remote branch. And so now, of course, if I go into my master and I go into main planet.handlebars, I now have that li. So using pull requests is an absolutely fantastic tool for collaboration, because it means that you're never writing code that your other teammates aren't seeing beforehand. So you can't really break the project as hard. It's very difficult now because nothing in the project is going in unless everyone else is looking at it. So this is an absolutely fantastic tool. I'm actually working on my senior project, and none of us are even allowed to touch the master branch until we make that pull request, because I'm working with someone else. So they have to approve all the changes I made, and then I have to approve all the changes she makes. And it's absolutely a fantastic system, because we never need to worry about doing all sorts of weird git merge conflicts and having to downloading the project one day and just getting all sorts of weird stuff. So actually what I want to do real quick is I want to go back in here. I want to git checkout master, and if I look, notice my planets.handlebars hasn't updated, but that's okay. I'm going to do git pull, and that's going to pull it from my remote. And as you can see, now it's exactly how I expected. And so that's pretty much the basics of how you're going to be using Git with GitHub. But GitHub has something very, very interesting and something that's totally underrated that I feel like a lot of people don't pay attention to, and that is collaboration on other open source projects. So my dream job is to work on the Kubernetes team at Google. It's probably one of the greatest teams twice paid at Google. And it's my dream job. I've used Kubernetes forever, and I want to get a job there. And I want to have something on my resume that proves that I know what I'm talking about. So Kubernetes has a tab called Issues. So I'm going to click on Issues, and these are all bugs in Kubernetes that anyone can fix. So if I see this error, like it's handling errors in package printer interval versions, I can actually click on this up here, fork. That's going to create a new Git repository on my machine. I can go in, I can fix that error, and then what I can do is I can submit a pull request to Kubernetes saying, hey, I fixed this error, and if they like it, they'll merge it. So if I'm trying to get a job somewhere, like if I'm trying to work at React or work on the React team, I can start contributing to React right now, and then when I hand in my resume, they're going to see, hey, you already know what you're talking about because you've already contributed to React. And it's not just Google engineers, or not just Facebook engineers, or whoever that gets to be able to contribute. You can actually go into contributors, and there's 3,000 contributors. And you just need to be one of them, and that's going to look fantastic on your resume. And another thing you should check out, well, something like Kubernetes is probably difficult, and a lot of these errors are probably very tricky edge cases that maybe the technology just flat out doesn't exist to fix. And you just want to get started on making changes. So what you could do is normally every big project, if you go into labels, let's see, labels. If I go into labels and I look up good first issue, these are all very basic errors. These are all issues that the Kubernetes team said, hey, these are good issues if someone just wants to get started contributing to Kubernetes. Some of these are just, flat out spelling errors. Some of these are just, can you make sure the testing coverage is doing more? A lot of these are very, very simple. And I mean, you could be working, if you want to work at Facebook, you could be working on React and have contributions to React, and all you've done is commit spelling errors. And they're still going to look at that and think, hey, this guy works on React, let's hire him. And so that's what I think the really big power of GitHub is being able to do pull requests and being able to fork other repositories and do pull requests for other people. And it's a great way to dip your feet into open source contribution. It's fantastic on your resume if you want to get into web development. Not only do you work with React, but you've also worked on React. Like literally, you've helped develop it, and that's going to look absolutely fantastic and totally set you apart. And that is like one of the most beautiful things I think that GitHub is. And with that, that's about it. That's about the basics of Git, branching, GitHub. Again, this is 20% that you use 80% of the time. And that's it. Any questions? No? Thank you so much. Real quick, I used this book called Pro Git as an inspiration for this lecture. It's free online. It teaches you everything you need to know about Git. It even teaches you the internals. If you just read the first 3 chapters, you'll probably never have a problem with Git in your life. And they're pretty short chapters. I'm going to post this in resources. I definitely think that if you want to use, you're going to be using Git, whether you like it or not, if you're in computer science or engineering. But if you want to get a head start on it, I definitely recommend you check this thing out and kind of just work along with the examples. Go ahead.
I have a question. So what's the difference when you use use push and you use commit? What's the difference between a push and a commit?
Yeah, great idea. So a push is when we have a remote repository and we've made commits to our local repository, and we want to push those commits to that remote repository. So a commit is going to be local, and then once we've made those local changes, we need to push it to remote. Okay. Make sense?
So, and git add, that would be like saving your changes?
It would be tracking the changes you made, and then once you git add, you want to commit those tracked files. So it's git add and then git commit.
Okay. And then after git commit, it's git status?
Well, yeah, and then you want to run, when we want to git add and then git status, and then it's going to tell you a list of files, and you want to make sure that you specifically made changes to all those files because you don't want anything weird in your repository, and then you'll do Git.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.